totally not going to be quiet. I can see it.
No, we're never quiet.
Be quiet. The countdown's on.
Gosh.
Hello, everybody, and happy October 1st. It is a glorious day here at, I want to say Dabble HQ, but we're remote. So it's a glorious day everywhere because it is the start of the 60-day novel challenge. This is the second year we are doing this structured challenge that involves us and you. 60 days of pure writing bliss is going to be so exciting. We're going to talk about all the details. We're going to say hello to everyone in the chat because there are a lot of you there. Dell was jump scared. But first, thank you for joining me. Hank, Abby, how are we doing on this wonderful day?
I'm finer than a frog hair split 3 ways.
Okay.
I can't top that.
Yeah. I love the Hankisms. Hank, we don't do enough shows together anymore. I've been missing out on them. It's been rough. We'll remedy that.
We've got to fix that. We shall fix that. Yeah. And if you've been on any of our live streams, Doug and I have a fun antagonism that is totally just for fun. Yeah, just for fun. Yeah.
I cry about it when the streams are over. All right. Let's say hello to folks who are going on here. I'm going to try and get everyone, but we are bumping today in the chat. So Hope was the first one here. NJ here as well, and Rob and Elena. Hello, all these familiar names. We have the Rita Rista.
10 points to Hope.
Yeah, 5 points to Hope. There are points in YouTube's chat, and it works sometimes. Rita Risa, hello. Let me know if I'm saying that right. I think I got it. We have Dell here. Hello, Dell. And Mel, hello. And Beauty Heretic, hello. Nice to see you. Aether, hello. Let's keep going down here. Aaron and Andrea and Alas and Bridget and Bernadette. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tim and Manny. And if you're throwing an MXY at me here. But Mixelpick, hello. Valentine, hello. Logio, hello. Is it a hard G or a soft G? Remind me, because I knew once and I can't remember. Shelly and Stephanie and Vita and Thura and I think I'm getting there. Scott and Matt and Holly and Beth and the Wolfrunian and Antoine. Hello, everybody. It's Ed. Mixelpick is Ed. You know what? That's easier for me.
I got to write that one down too. We keep lists, you guys.
We do keep lists. All right. So we do have a workshop coming up in just a few minutes here that I will be running, but I wanted to bring on the Dabble team here. We have one more who's not on. Robert, you will see him later today. It's just real early for him, and he has a 1-year-old, and so the man struggles with sleep at the best of times. We don't want to get him up ungodly early for this. but we have myself and Hank and Abby, and you're going to be seeing our faces constantly throughout this challenge.
Even daily.
Yeah, actually daily. A quick TLDR for the challenge.
Real unflattering freeze poses on the thanks, Robert, for that one.
The way the challenge is going to work, we're going to have weekly videos dropping every Monday going over lessons for the challenge, and then a weekly live stream where the 3 of us are going to chat about the challenge, answer questions, debrief about the work that was assigned that week, homework as I like to call it. But on top of that, we're dropping a short tip video every single day of this challenge. 60 tips for 60 days. It's going to be a good time. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. And if you really want to, turn on that notification bell so you know when those tips go up, when the videos with the lessons go up, when the live streams start. All of that's going to be hosted here. And then we have more stuff over in the community. But I see Hank wants to say something.
I think the proper nomenclature is smash that notification bell.
Smash it.
And if we're going to be real YouTubers, that's
true. Yeah. That's true. So don't just hit or tap or click the notification bell. Just smash it.
Yeah.
And if you damage your screen, send it to Hank.
Yeah. And I'll route it to Doug.
But on top of all of the stuff that we have going on here on YouTube, we have a community dedicated to the 60-day novel challenge. as well. And I'm sharing a link for that in the chat right now. If you want to officially participate in the 60-day challenge, there's 2 things you've got to do. The first is go ahead and join that community space and then hang out with all the other writers. One of the most underrated parts of writing, and if you're part of Dabble Academy, you read this yesterday in my newsletter, is the community aspect of it. We are not in this alone. We are in this together. We are learning off of one another. We are motivating each other. We're helping one another. So don't underestimate the community part, especially in a challenge that is going to be difficult. 60 days to write a whole book is not easy. But then the second step is to go into Dabble and link the project that you're going to be using for the 60-day novel challenge in the pop-up that should pop up when you log in as of today. Might have happened last night if you're a real early bird. And if you aren't a dabbler, we are offering a free extended trial to try everything Dabble has for the entire challenge. To do that, you have to join over at the community, and then you can try Dabble, the normal trial. It'll just automatically extend for you. No questions asked, because it does all the work in the back end. Abby, Hank, are you guys excited for the next 60 days?
I am. This is the first time I've ridden along with you guys. You did it last year without me, so I'm.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I feel like I'm just one of the crowd. Tell me what to do. I'm just going to do it.
So. You know, I'm going into this challenge with 7 novels written and unpublished. What's 8?
Yeah, right. That's it. I just finished another novel yesterday, and I'm excited to get into the next one now.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to publish some, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to get some out there, Hank.
I say that in jest. I have a publication schedule for these books coming out, but I will say that number 7 of the 7 unpublished is my book that I wrote in last year's challenge, and it is coming out next month. So super excited. Like
I love that.
I wrote a book during our 60-day challenge last year, and I'm actually publishing it this year. So
you can get something quality out of it. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. The whole point of this challenge is to get real results, and whether the results are a published book for you or a finished first draft or just 50,000 more words in the book you're currently writing,
right?
It doesn't matter. The premise is results. The promise is results. If you stick with us, if you do the work, if you commit to it. I see in the chat that Bridget and Bernadette both smashed the subscribe button, and Andrea super smashed it. Fantastic. Matt says the bumper sticker video was very helpful. It was a great start to the challenge. So there you go, Abby. Fantastic. If you don't know what Matt's talking about, you can check that out on our channel, and hopefully it starts popping up in your shorts feed as well. All right. And yes.
Oh, wait, I love this. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Aether asking, is it a pay upfront kind of subscription? It is not. So you just have to sign up. You don't put a credit card in to start the trial, and it will extend throughout the whole challenge if you do those 2 steps, join the community and link a project to the challenge. And then if you decide that you love Dabble, if you decide that you love Dabble at the end of it, which I'm very confident you will, then you can choose to sign up for a monthly or yearly or lifetime subscription. And to that point, anyone who participates in the challenge can get 20% off a Dabble subscription. Anyone who succeeds and reaches that 50,000 word mark by the end of November can get a whopping 40% off. And if you are interested in lifetime, this was asked in the community yesterday. We normally do Black Friday deal for lifetime. That's the only time we discount lifetimes. I don't want to say subscription, lifetime purchase. So that will happen towards the end of November as well. Okay. All right.
All right.
Hank.
Wait a minute. I think we have a new tradition. I think we should start this. Thank you, Rob. We should do a like spike and everybody click the thumbs up button at the same time. I freaking love that. Can I do it? I don't even know that I see a like button on the back end.
No, there's no like button on the back end. You have to go
on the back end, but if you open a new tab, bam.
That needs
Rob
to be
looking
a
out for us.
Let's start that. Start it.
And I want to highlight here, Valentine got a yearly subscription last year. Totally worth it. I know a lot of the people, and first, thank you. That's awesome. And I'm glad that you find it worth it. I know a lot of the people that we see in our regular events, in our Tuesday to Thursday writing sprints, in the interviews that we have, the shows that we do, are people who joined us through the 60-day challenge and NaNoWriMo last year. And with NaNoWriMo no more, unfortunately, we're trying to do what we can to help authors get their goals accomplished. So with that said, we've been here for 10 minutes. Hank, Abby, anything else you want to add before I dive into this fun workshop we have?
Join us for all the live content that we're I had to look down and see if I'd muted my mic. We've got live content all month, yay, even all 60 days. Come by, drop by our channel just about any day. There's going to be something going on.
Hank, you have a show later today, right?
Do have a show later today with Julie Arts.
Arts.
Arts. And we're going to talk about the premise of the show initially was critique partners, but I think we're going to broaden the scope of that to talk about writing partners and joining a challenge together with other people, getting feedback. We're going to talk about how to know what kind of feedback is good feedback, what is usable feedback, because new writers will get opinions from everybody and think, oh, I have to completely rewrite my novel. Well, you need to know what is good and what is not, and what so we're going to talk about all that good stuff. And that's at 1 o'clock Eastern. Is that right?
Nope, it's not. It's at 3 o'clock Eastern.
3 o'clock. Excuse me. I'm getting we have so many events today. I'm getting my event.
Hank and I are just 1, 2, 3, 4 all day long. So
another event that you can join today, I'll be hosting writing sprints with Robert at 12:30, where both him and I are just going to start working on the exercises in the template. So you can follow along, ask questions. It's 3 20-minute sprints of productivity with 5-minute break in between to chat, ask questions, have a good time. And that'll be here on YouTube as well. Abby, anything for you?
I was just going to say, I woke up this morning to like 47,000 direct messages in the Circle app. I will get back to everyone at some point in the next day, maybe two. I think that was the most messages I had ever woken up to in any one given day. And I was like, holy moly. So be patient with me, people, but I will get back to everybody. So
Speaking of your writing sprints with Robert today, we have a lot of co-hosts for writing sprints this time. If you don't normally attend writing sprints, there's going to be a lot of fresh faces this month and next. And Chris Porto is going to be joining me tomorrow. And we're just going to have a great time. So stop by and, get some fresh face time with
and a lot of them are best-selling authors, book coaches, editors. They're experts in the field, so you can bring questions to help us fill that 5 minutes of chit chat with
already goes by so quickly.
I don't think we'll have any trouble.
All right, you two take off. I'll field some questions here before we get into the workshop. I will see you later. Thanks for joining me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Let's take a look. Oh, that's too much, Doug. There we go. Before we pull the workshop up, let's just take a look at the chat, see what's going on here. I see that Renee came in. Hi, Renee. And there was someone else who I wanted to say hello to. Jeremy, hello. All right. Tessa saying, I've never written a novel before and I'm nervous. And that's totally okay to be. Listen, writing a novel is equal parts fun and challenging. I'm not going to tell you that it's an easy thing, but we've set up this challenge and the template and the exercises and the shows in a way that hopefully walks you through it so it makes sense, so that you can take all these pieces out of your imagination, put them down on digital paper, and start making the story that you want to make. Your first draft isn't going to be perfect. If your first draft is 50,000 words or less by the end of November, then that's great. If it's not, if it's longer, that's cool. We've got a chunk of it done. It's not going to be perfect either way, but the idea is to get you writing, is to get those creative juices flowing, if I may use that term that I'm not a huge fan of, but it's just so easy. Fenrir is saying you haven't decided what you're going to work on, start fresh or continuing. And to that, we did a workshop last week for Dabble Academy. And for those who don't know, Dabble Academy, I am the dean of Dabble Academy. My role here at Dabble is to create educational content for people in the premium subscription or people who join Dabble Academy directly. One of those things is monthly workshops. We talked about an author platform and how important your mailing list is to your author career. And so if you're torn on what you should be doing, my suggestion is start fresh and use the challenge to write a novella that you can use as a lead magnet to start growing your email list. I won't get too technical. I don't want to overwhelm anyone with with more of the advanced jargon here, because this might be your first introduction to Dabble. It might be your first introduction to writing. And so I want to get you started on the right foot. So if you have questions about that, we can answer them afterwards or during the sprints later. I see is it Marie here for your first challenge and you're excited? I'm excited to have you here. That's awesome. Meg asking, is there a new template for this year? It is the same template as last year. I went in and I brushed some things up a little bit, made it look a little, prettier, changed some flow, but largely it is the same. The exercises are the same. So you should be able to access the same template from last year. What's new this year are the lesson videos, the tip videos, and a lot of the shows that we're doing. Okay. Aether asking, how often do you have writing sprints? Because it might be during your classes. We do writing sprints at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday through Thursday, all normally, and that will continue this month. In November, we are doing them Monday through Friday at that same time. You'll find, though, if you join the community, a lot of people will be hosting their own community sprints. So those are going on, in the morning for me, in the afternoon, in the evening, well into when I'm asleep. So if you are in a different time zone than me, I'm Eastern, I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, thereabouts, then, you can look to the community for sprints that are better suited for your schedule. And it's Bernadette, right? Bernadette asking, where do we see the list of events and sprints and assignments? That's over at the community. I will drop that link in there again. NJ is asking, what kind of sprint are we doing? What kind of workshop are we doing? We're doing a mindset and goal setting workshop. NJ, you may have seen it last year. I did a similar kind of thing, but it might be new to you. I know you've been around since sometime last challenge. But Rob's saying can never be too much Doug. And Stephanie, there's no such thing as too much Ginger. L. Holly Floyd asking, are the writing sprints live or can I listen to them later? They are live. However, every replay is available on YouTube, and that goes for this replay as well. So if you can't stay for the entire workshop, which I get, you have your own lives, you have things you got to do that aren't just watching me, you can come back and watch it later. I'll also post a link to this in the challenge community over at Dabble Campus. Okay. And then let's do one more question here before I dive into it. Scott asking, my trial already expired and I'm now read only. How can I use the extended trial? You should be able to sign up for a new trial. If you cannot, email support@dabblewriter.com. And I'll put that in the chat here. Support@dabblewriter.com. There we go. And that should help you out. Okay, awesome. I see a lot of great chat, and I encourage you to continue chatting. Matt's asking a question about setting goals. Matt, if the option is grayed out, then just try changing the project word count or the goal word count. You can erase 50,000, type 50,000 back in. That might help it. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the internet just thinks nothing's happened. But give it a shot there. And where is the template? That is over in the community. You can grab that, and towards the end of the workshop, I will share a link to that as well. But the easiest way is to go grab it in the community. Okay. And I love seeing all the first time people here. This is awesome. I mean, I love seeing everyone that comes to our events normally, but it's great to see some new names and faces or profile pics as well. All right, here we go. Okay, so we are talking about finally finishing your novel. And the way that that's phrased, it's like, okay, what if, sounds like it's geared to people who have already started their novel, but this is full of mindset advice and habit forming advice and goal setting advice that anyone can use, even if you've never started a novel before. Because if you haven't started a novel, then you've never finally finished it. So we're going to get you from whatever point you're at to where you need to be. This workshop is not about the story craft itself. It's not about character development. It's not about plot structure. It's not about themes. We have 400 plus articles over at Dabble. If you want to learn more about that, we have a ton of educational content here on YouTube, and we have the community where we have even more stuff. I'll share a link to Dabble in the chat right now, where you can check out those articles. There's a ton. That's where I got my start with Dabble. But this is about what it takes to really be an author, to actually write your book. And that, I think, is a very underrated part of writing, despite it being one of the hardest parts of writing. All right, let's get into it. On today's agenda, so this is the kickoff for the 60-day novel challenge, and I want you to take everything that we talk about here and really hold it true, really embed it in that writer brain of yours throughout the challenge, because it will be helpful. But if you understand and take to heart what we are talking about today, it will help you throughout your entire writing career. And this is not challenge specific, this is writing specific. And it just so happens that it is a writing challenge, so it will help you twofold. Right? So today we're going to be talking about your why and the goals that you have. We're going to be talking about some proven techniques to help you write your book, some common obstacles that you're going to face. We're going to go through a quick way to craft your writing plan, and I'll give you direction on where to go if you want more details on that. And then we always save time at the end for Q&A and talking about what's coming up next. I love in the chat here, Azizrian saying step 1, stop making new mood boards for future novel projects. And Veronica saying step 2, sit down and just write. Love it. All right. If you're new to Dabble, you might not know who we are, what we are. Let me just adjust my screen here. But Dabble is, in my opinion, and I know I sound a little biased saying this because I work for Dabble, it's the world's best writing tool for novelists. And to be clear, I used Dabble long before I started working for Dabble. It was through Dabble's email list when they were asking for copywriters to apply for jobs that I came to work for Dabble. But I was a big fan of it long before that. Dabble is modern, it's sleek, it has no distractions, it has a focus mode. You can write on any device anywhere, and your work will automatically back up to the cloud whenever you have some kind of connection, cellular or Wi-Fi. You can drag and drop things in it. You can sort notes and folders however you want. You can organize your cast of characters. Has a built-in plot grid, which is such a powerful and flexible plotting device for pantsers and plotters alike. You can set your goals and track your habits in there. And there's just a lot more going on. And we're currently working on what we're lovingly calling Dabble 3.0, which is a bit of a revamp of it, bringing it, making it look a little fresher, refining some things, but also adding beta reading and editing integration with track changes. That's what's coming next for Dabble. And that is, as someone who is an editor as well and who needs beta readers and editors for my writing, that is huge. That's going to be a huge next step. But what else is Dabble? Right? Dabble isn't just the world's best writing tool for novelists, right? It's live events here on YouTube and in our community. It's writing challenges like the 60-day novel challenge. We had Indie Summer over the summer, walking you through the indie publishing process. We did a short story challenge earlier in the year as well, and we have a bunch of other ideas lined up. We have Dabble U Campus, which is that thriving community for writers to connect and learn from one another. We have Dabble U, the link that I just shared, with over 400 articles spanning everything about authorship. And then we have Dabble U Academy, which I have the privilege of running, which includes live monthly workshops, a premium course library, over 50 hours of workshop recordings, exclusive community within Dabble U Campus, weekly events, office hours, a bonus newsletter and resources, and more. And coming up next, we are currently, as of today, starting the beta run of a group coaching program to see how that works out and what value we can deliver in a more intimate setting, I want to say. So there is a lot at Dabble. It's not just the writing tool, even though the writing tool is the best one out there. But our whole purpose is to help you write your book. Right? That is why I wake up in the morning. That is why everyone on the team wakes up in the morning and does our job. That is what we are committed to. So, yeah, I can also show off Dabble either later today in the sprints or at the end of the workshop if we have time, if you're new to it and have any questions. Let me take a sip of water here before we get too much further. I'll catch up on the chat in my head. I just spilled water on myself. Live. Live in front of a whole bunch of people. Fantastic. Marie's asking, you're only able to use Google Doc or something else because you're too young to purchase. I wish I could, though. Is Google Docs a good alternative? Listen, anything that gets you writing and gets you closer to achieving your goal of writing a book or a short story or novella or what have you, I think is a good alternative. Do I think Dabble's the best out there? Absolutely. And there are, this isn't a sales pitch. I don't want to sound markety, but there are gift cards available if someone wants to purchase it for you. That's the last time I'll try and sell you on that. But Google Docs is a perfectly fine alternative. Tons of writers use Google Docs or Microsoft Word or any free alternative. Veronica saying that sounds like I should kick Scrivener in the butt and give Dabble a try. You absolutely should. The fact that you even made me say that S word, it burns. No, I'm kidding. And if you're new, that might have sounded really sassy, and I'm a sassy person. But whatever, the whole point of this challenge is to get you to write your book. And if you use Dabble to do that, that's great. That's why we have the extended trial, to get you to try it and love it. But if you use something else, I'll still be very happy. I just want you to accomplish your goals, right? Pages on Mac is Rob's jam. I'm not an Apple person, so so that's on you. All right, let's keep on going here. Keep on keeping on. Who am I? I've done a little bit of an introduction already, but if you haven't met me before, hi, I'm Doug. I'm the Dean of Dabble Academy here at Dabble. I've written over 100 articles over at Dabble and 2 ebooks for Dabble as well. I host live events here on Dabble's YouTube. I've published 5 books. 3 of them were #1 new releases, 1 a #1 bestseller. Those were in urban fantasy. I write dark fantasy as well. I have an unpublished horror novel sitting there waiting for me to get to it. And on top of all of that, I'm a husband, a dog dad, an editor, and a nerd. All right. Whenever I do a workshop with Dabble Academy or here on YouTube, I have 3 expectations that I'd like the crowd to follow here. The first is ask questions. This is an open forum. I'm here to help you. So if you have a question about something we're talking about, please drop it in the chat. If I can't answer it immediately, I will save it for later. The second one is collaborate. To the point that I was saying before, that community is so important when it comes to writing. Collaboration is an element of community, even here in a workshop. I don't have all the answers. Okay? I'm fortunate enough to have a job where I get to find a lot of the answers to these questions, but everyone here brings their own expertise and experiences. And so if you have something that you want to lend to the discussion, or if someone asks a question and you have an answer you want to provide, I encourage you to do so. And we're clearly a chatty group, which I love to see. That brings me so much joy. So please keep up the chatting. And the last one is be kind. This has never been an issue in any of the workshops I've done, but I have absolutely zero tolerance for unkindness, for hate, for what have you, for negativity in general. So if you say something rude or unkind or hateful in the chat, then you're getting blocked. Okay, I don't have the patience for it. Oh, awesome. Bernadette writes dark fantasy as well. I love that. I love that. Okay. Okay. We're starting out with a little sad, a little sad latte there. With a quick poll. Let me know in the chat here. When do you usually fall into a writing slump? This happens to all of us. Okay. This happens to people who have written 50 books. This happens to people who have never finished a book. But when in the writing process do you usually fall into a writing slump? For me, it's usually just before the midpoint of the novel. Okay, we're like 40% into the second act of the book. I fall into a slump. My motivation wanes. I want to be farther into it. And then once I hit the midpoint, then I get another boost of motivation. I get a boost of enthusiasm, and I can keep going. But that part right before it, it can be tough. It can be tough, especially for longer books for me. Let's see what's going on in here. I love that Aether and Ella Holly Floyd are reinforcing the be kind. Rob, it only happens to me on days that end in Y. Excellent. Renee, editing apparently. Oh no, sorry to hear that. In the later middle. Bridget, after I make significant progress. Okay. Valentine, when my life is busy. Yep, absolutely. We'll talk about that later for sure. Vita, halfway point. Okay. The messy middle for Hazel. Aether's asking, what is a writing slump? This is just when it is tough for you to sit down and write the words. When, you might have writer's block, or you might have a slump in creativity. You just sit down and maybe you normally write 500 words, but you write 5 instead. anything where it's more difficult, there's more friction in the system, and it's harder for you to write. Penner is when my ADHD focuses on something different. Yeah. Okay, so we get a lot of people in the middle as well, which makes sense, right? We call it the messy middle for a reason. What gets me stopped writing is being on YouTube or social media too much. This is Robin saying this, and I can't settle into writing being distracted. Okay, good to know. And you're not alone in that. Ashley, editing and finishing the story. Okay, yeah. As someone with a lot of first drafts right now, I feel that. After the first yes, I have an idea from Manny. Okay. I agree with just before the midpoint. Awesome. When you're forced to step away, Matt, for other responsibilities. Oh, you've never had a slump, Angie, except for this one, which wasn't caused by writing itself, but outside influences and depression. Yeah, and real life absolutely plays a factor in writing. We do not write in isolation. So I'm sorry to hear that happened, but hopefully we can get you past the slump, or at least give you the tools to make it a little less slumpy. Okay. I can't go through all of the answers because there are so many, and I'm trying not to keep you here for too long. If you are part of Dabble Academy, and I know I have some folks here who are, you know that my workshops can get kind of lengthy. The one that we did last week went for almost 3.5 hours. My throat was on fire at the end, but it was such a good one. I'm not going to let that happen today. Don't worry. This is a shorter one. This is just a taste of no, it's a full workshop, but it's a taste of Doug, let's say. Okay. So, part one, let's talk about why you're writing in the first place. And this might sound a little out there. It might sound a little, I don't want to say metaphysical, maybe meta. But I promise this is worth it. And for a lot of people, this is going to resonate very much. Okay. So, whenever we talk about why, whenever I talk about writing, I'm going to be talking about goals. Goals are such a powerful thing. And I think some people have this stigma associated with goals where you think that they are a negative factor or that they work against you. I'm going to hopefully convert you, or at least give you some tools to understand why that's not the case and how goals can be helpful if you give them a chance. But they can only be helpful. They can only be powerful motivators if we set them right. So, I want to finish my first draft, unfortunately, is not a strong goal. It's not smart. It's not motivating. It's not personal. And worst of all, it doesn't actually do anything for you. So if you said to yourself, I want to finish my first draft, and you thought that was a good goal, I'm not trying to bring you down. Okay. But we can do better. We can do something that will make that goal not just like an aspiration, but something that will help you get there. But to do that, we need to figure out why you're writing in the first place. And this comes from a friend of mine, an Australian financial planner, actually, who I did some work with back in the day. And I call this the dig deeper exercise. He does this for people with his finances. I do this for people when it comes to writing. And this is best done with a partner. But if you don't have someone nearby, or maybe you want to do this later with someone, that's cool too. You can do it solo, right? But best done with a partner. And you might feel some big emotions as you get to the end of this one when you genuinely sit down to do it. And that's perfectly okay, because this is an emotional exercise, right? So to do this exercise, you choose a goal, ideally one related to your work in progress. And if it's, I want to finish my first draft, that's fine for now, because we'll craft stronger goals later. But let's focus on something like that for now. Okay. Choose one of those, you jot it down. Then you ask yourself, why is this important to me? Or if you're doing this with a partner, they ask you, why is this important to you? Why is it important for you to finish your first draft of your novel? Right? You jot the answer down below that. And then your partner or yourself, whoever is asking the question, asks the same question about what you just wrote down. All right. And then you rinse and repeat that until you can't find a deeper answer, or you jot down something that just clicks. Okay. 4 steps, a bit of a repetition in there, a bit of a loop. But the idea here is to drill down, to dig deep into something really meaningful. And the reason this is best done with a partner is because they can push you when you think that you've answered enough. We lack objectivity when it comes to ourselves. So bringing in someone else to help out with this is always helpful. But again, you can do it by yourself. So here's an example. Okay. I want to write the first draft of my horror novel. This is an actual example of what I did when I wrote the first draft, before I wrote the first draft of my horror novel. Okay. Why is this important to me? To start building my backlist. Why is that important to me? I can sell more books, I can have better launches, I can foster a community around my writing. Why is that important to me? I can further progress my author career. Why is progressing my author career important to me? Because I can get closer to earning a sustainable income from my writing. Why does that matter? Because then I can live the life I want while devoting my work to something fulfilling. Okay. So when I say I want to write the first draft of my horror novel using this dig deeper exercise, what I'm really saying is I want to live the life I want while devoting my work to something fulfilling. These are two radically different statements, but these are the exact same thing. All right. And that's the power of this exercise and what I want you to start thinking about, because it might not be important now. You might be very excited to start the 60-day novel challenge. And I hope that you are. I hope you're very excited to join me in this challenge. And you might be right here, and that's very motivating. But when we get to day 45 and you are in the middle of writing your first draft and you've just put in 25,000 words over the last 15 days and you've done all this month long of planning before that, this kind of goal is not something, this kind of reason why is not something that helps us push through that murkiness. This is not something that motivates us or makes us want to keep going. It is a lot harder for me to say, no, I don't want to write today when this is my reason for writing than it is for this. It's very easy for me to say, it's just the first draft of my horror novel. It's a lot harder to say, it's just doing something fulfilling with my life while, living the life I want to lead. Boy, howdy, does that resonate. Perfect way of saying it, actually. So, this is not something that you can really do by yourself in like 30 seconds. Okay. Because if you do it that quickly, I don't think you've dug deep enough. I don't think you've taken the time to really dwell on the answers. If you're doing this with someone, give yourself a couple minutes in between each step to really think about what you're answering. You can go with your first answer. Your gut instinct might be the right one, but don't be afraid to take some time. Don't be afraid to sit in silence and think about this for a minute or two, and do that over and over again until you really can't think of something more meaningful or deeper or something that resonates more. Okay. Manny's emotional now. Sorry, Manny. But we do have some answers in the chat here. I saw that Valentine answered before. I want to prove I can still be a writer even on my bipolar meds. My therapist and I did that yesterday. I love to see that. That's awesome. And Medishaful, please let me know how to best pronounce that if I messed that up. I spent my career writing for other people. I want to write this novel for myself. I love seeing that as well. And I love how much this is resonating with a lot of people. So that's awesome. Awesome. So I strongly encourage you, as Robin says here, never been so excited to do homework. I strongly encourage you to do that later today. If you can do it with someone else, if you have a friend, a partner, whatever, a parent, do it with them. Someone that you trust, someone that you are comfortable spending some time in silence with, and don't let them put answers into your mouth. Okay, they are there to ask you the question and to make sure you're being honest, not to provide answers if you're doing this with someone else. Okay. Okay. And then what do you do with this why? You write it down. You put it somewhere where you can see it every day, especially during this challenge. That's going to be a great way to remind yourself why you're doing this. You picture that goal whenever your motivation is waning. If you're really struggling to write one day, if you really just don't want to jot down any words, thinking about this future is a very powerful way to get you to start writing, even if it's a few words, right? Acknowledge, though, that this is the ultimate goal that you're pursuing and not something that's going to be accomplished in the next 60 days or the next 365 days. Okay. If we go back here, I want to live the life I want while devoting my work to something fulfilling is not something I will accomplish by completing the 60-day novel challenge. I'm sorry. If I could do that for you in 60 days, I 100% would, but I cannot. But doing something like the 60-day novel challenge, writing your next novel, finishing your first novel will take you one step closer to what your deepest why is, to your ultimate goal when it comes to writing. Okay. And that's why it's important. And that's what we say here. Remember that any goal, writing or work in progress related, you set is likely the same as the ultimate goal. Every one of them is part of that. It is a stepping stone towards that. And that's why it's so important. All right. Okay. Let's see if there's anything going on in the chat here. Logio, you are not running out of time at 49 years old. Absolutely, you're not, as a bunch of people here are reinforcing. We've had people in the Dabble community, in their 80s who are writing their first book. You have to figure out why that's important to you, and if this is you want it to be like a second career, you want it to be part-time income, you want to just write a book to give to your family so that they have the stories that you have in your mind whenever they want them. There's a lot of reasons why you could be writing, but I want you to get it out of your head now that 49 years old is running out of time for writing. Absolutely not. Now, if you do want to write faster, if you want to, not extend this process over multiple years, I'm absolutely in support of that too. Don't get me wrong. We do, to Aether's point here, about how much younger you are than a lot of folks. There's such a big span of people in the Dabble community, in Dabble U Campus, at our events here on YouTube, in the Dabble, customer base, for lack of a sexier term. There's a huge span of people from their teens to, like I said, their 80s. I don't know if we have anyone in their 90s, but we might. So it's really cool having such a diverse and an international audience as well. Nadia's asking if these slides and other workshops will be available in a printable format. You'd love that. Let me see what I can do. But I'm sure I can think of something. And let me jot that down, because if I don't, then I'm going to forget. Okay. Okay. Tim's taking pictures. Well, remind me to pose. Okay, let's move on here. So that's understanding the why behind your writing, and it is, in my humble opinion, a critical part to being a very successful writer. It's the thing that will keep you going. Okay, whether this is a career option for you, or a hobby, or an important mission, whatever it is, understanding why you're doing it is important. Now, we want to understand SMART goals. Okay, because we've talked about goal setting. I'm sure a lot of people here, if not everyone, has heard of SMART goals, but we're going to go through them and dissect them a little bit, and then tie them back into writing. Okay, so SMART goals are expanded detailed goals that leverage actual psychology to make them more impactful. And you'll see a couple of variations on what the acronym stands for, but for the most part, the consensus is something like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And this is my preferred version of the acronym, and so all other ones are wrong. So, specific. All right, what do you need to accomplish? Does finishing your book mean the first draft, or making it ready for publishing? What steps do you need to take? How close are you to the end? Are there milestones or other goals you need to reach along the way? And can you picture it? The easier you can put yourself in the shoes of your future self, the more likely you are to attain this goal. So when we say a goal should be specific, we want to dial in on what we actually want, right? We want to picture it as concretely as possible, which can be difficult when it comes to writing a book, because saying I have a 50,000 word first draft isn't the most concrete thing in the world, which is why we tie the why into it to reinforce the magnitude of it. And then it's really up to you to understand what this specific goal is for you. And it might be that the 50,000 word first draft is just the first step of a larger goal. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Then measurable. Quantifying your goal just makes it so much easier, a heck of a lot easier, to see how far you've come, what's left, and when you've reached your destination. So can you quantify it? It might feel hard to do something, to quantify something that's creative, but it's totally doable. And then you need to figure out what's considered actual progress. When we say a 50,000 word first draft for the 60-day novel challenge, understand that's a first draft. It's not polished, perfect words. That work comes after, right? So we are aiming for those initial words, just getting the scaffolding there, getting the first draft done, and aiming for progress rather than perfection. Some people get hung up on the measurable part because they don't want to tie a word count goal to their writing. To that, I totally understand it, and I get where you're coming from. However, it makes the rest of goal setting so much easier when you pick at least a target for now. So you might find that over the course of the next 60 days, your novel is going to be longer than 50,000 words. 50,000 words is a short novel, right? Most novels, depending on the genre, you're ranging from like 70 to 200,000 words. So 50,000 words definitely falls on the shorter end. So this might be just the start of your novel, or might be 2/3 of your novel, or what have you. So we're choosing 50,000 words because when we break it down, it gives us daily goals to hit. It can give us weekly goals to hit. It can give us progress that shows that we are actually pushing forward towards this goal and we are approaching the end of it. And it makes it more digestible. Okay. This part is extra important, as we'll see in a handful of slides now, as I look at my outline, when it comes to making things more realistic or attainable. And that's our next one. So goals are meant to be reached. And if there is anything I want you to take away from this workshop, well, actually, if there are two anythings. The first one's the dig deeper exercise. But if there's anything else I want you to take away from this workshop, it's that goals are meant to be reached. Too many people think that a goal is supposed to be some kind of dream that you aspire to and work towards, but sometimes you just don't get there. That's not what goals are for. Okay. Don't stop thinking like that. Goals are meant to be reached because the process of reaching a goal, of getting to that end point and rewarding yourself, and we'll talk about that in a moment, creates a positive feedback loop in your brain. It makes you want to go and pursue more goals and accomplish them, and then pursue more goals and accomplish them. Nothing makes me want to write another book more than finishing a book. Because the long-term like serotonin hit that you get from creating something really cool and really big that took a lot of time and effort makes you want to do it again. If you set a goal that cannot be reached, you do not get that satisfying hit at the end. You do not get the positive reinforcement, and eventually you're just going to burn yourself out or bum yourself out, to be honest, and you're never going to want to strive for another goal. So, is your goal something that you can reasonably accomplish? And as you're going into the 60-day novel challenge, this is something that I want you to think about, because the 60-day challenge is 31 days of planning and 30 days of writing. It's actually 61 days, but 61-day novel challenge sounds bad. So when it comes to the 30-day writing challenge, like the 30-day writing part of it, of the challenge, you're looking at 1,667 words per day. Okay, and these are screenshots from Dabble. We do the goal setting for you if you give us the details. And if you've done Nano before, that's a familiar number, right? Anyone who's done this knows that 1667 is the 30-day daily word count to reach 50,000 words in a month. That's not doable for some people. If you can write 400 words in half an hour, say, then this is 2 hours every single day for an entire month. That's not realistic for some people. Okay, and that's not attainable for you then. What you might want to do is still come along for the challenge, but understand, hey, if I'm aiming for 50,000 words, maybe I'm going through December as well. Maybe November and December are my writing months, because 820 words a day is 40 minutes of work rather than 2 hours, and you can manage that in your schedule. Okay, I don't want you to quit before you try. I don't want you to get in your head and think, okay, I cannot do this one, so I'm just going to settle for this one right now. But when you are setting any kind of goal, especially a writing goal, you need to make sure it's attainable, because if you can't reach it, and you have to reach it through hard work, it should be difficult. Okay, but if you can't reach it, then you are working against yourself in the long term. I see a lot of some questions going on in the chat here, and I'll get to them just as soon as we get through the acronym. All right. Relevant. This is why we went through the dig deeper exercise, because this is such an important part of effective goal setting. So why are you setting this goal? Is it part of another one? Spoiler, it should be. Okay. When you do the dig deeper exercise, you should figure out why you are writing, and that is your bigger goal that a smaller one like writing a 50,000 word novel in 2 months feeds into. Okay. You can think, does something need to be done before this can be accomplished? And will this lead to something more relevant? And then time bound. this is the other part of the acronym where I get a lot of pushback from people because they hate deadlines. And I understand that deadlines can add undue stress to people. And I understand that in the past, deadlines have been a negative experience for people. But not having a time associated with your goal makes it far too easy to kick the can. And so many people, just through natural inclination and the stresses of life, are willing to kick that can when it comes to a writing, because that's just how priorities work, right? Especially if this is your first time novel and you, let's say you're a parent and you have a job and you have friends and you have, a house to clean and you have bills to worry about and you have other things going on in your life. It's quite easy to be like, okay, writing can wait until tomorrow. Even, I'm 5 published books and 4 unpublished books into my writing career, and I can still make those excuses pretty easily. So when we attach a time period to our goal, it makes us think differently in terms of pushing things off. Okay. And if deadlines haven't worked for you in the past, then I want you to revisit and ask yourself why they didn't work for you. Is it that they were too short? Is it that they were too long? Is it that you didn't implement milestones along the way to make it more digestible? Odds are you can figure out a reason why it didn't work. And if you can give it another shot when it comes to goal setting, I'd like that to be the case because it can be a lot more powerful for you. Okay. Before we get into the next part of this section, I'm just going to catch up on the chat here while I sip on my coffee because normally I do these workshops at 2 in the afternoon. And I decide, hey, today it's going to be 10 in the morning. Star's asking if there's a printable format worksheets for the challenge. Not that the Dabble template doesn't help, of course. And Star, absolutely. I spent yesterday putting the template into a Google Doc form, and I'm going to share that link in the community later today. It just needs a little bit of tweaking to make it look nicer. But it's something like 48 pages long for the entire span of the challenge. There's a lot of content, and arguably too much content. When I made the template last year for the challenge, I didn't realize that so much went into it and that we are giving away so much. But again, it's all about helping you get to your goal. So I'm more than happy to do that. And that's why we have a non-Dabble version as well, because some people will not use Dabble. And, I think you're making a mistake, but but I totally get if you have your writing software of choice that is not Dabble. But again, we have the free trial for the whole challenge. Let's keep going. Veronica saying, nice perspective talking about the ages. So you feel like you're so behind that you missed your chance and you're only 32 years old. I'm only 32 years old as well. So don't feel like you're behind even if you haven't finished your first book, right? It is never too late to start your first book. Okay, let me keep scrolling here. And I see there's a lot of discussion here about is 100,000, 200,000 too long for a novel, or is it better to split it up? And to Ed's point here, depends on the genre. So fantasy can be really long. I don't know if it has been said, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of messages, so I'm trying to keep up on it. But if you are going the traditional route or want to go traditional publishing, there is a limit on what traditional publishers will accept for a debut author's word count, because you are an investment for them, you're a business choice for them, right? They have to make money off of their deal with you, and the longer a book, the more expensive it is to print. So if you are trying to get your debut traditional publishing deal, don't aim for like 250,000 words, aim for like 120,000 words. But again, a little off topic, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah, and Andrea asking here, the writing sprints in October, are you using that for a word count for the challenge or using that to plot? If you're following the challenge specifically, we are using October to plan and plot and brainstorm and come up with our characters, and then we'll be using the sprints and other writing time in November to get the drafting done. I can't stop you from doing anything else, but that's what most of us will be doing in October. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hello, Jingwen. All right. Marie, the template you can find over in the challenge community in Dabble U Campus. I'll post a link to the space that you have to join to be a part of that. And you'll find it in the announcements of that space as well. Okay, let's keep on keeping on here, folks. I say as if it's not me slowing us down. So here's an example. This is not a SMART goal. I want to finish the first draft of my novel. Okay. It is a goal. It is a perfectly fine goal. I will not shame you for this being if this is your goal, but it's not a SMART goal. If we smarten it up, I'll finish the first draft of my 100,000 word novel by December 31st so I can start querying it by June. Okay. Let's dissect why this is smart. It's specific. First draft. That's concrete goal. We have the reasoning there. We understand. And if we did the dig deeper exercise, we would understand why this is super important. Okay. Measurable, 100,000 words. We got that in there. Attainable, 1,100 words per day with no days off. Is this attainable for you? This is where I really want you to focus on these two elements combined with time bound. That will help you realize, hey, is this actually something I can do when it comes to setting a writing goal? If the answer is no, something needs to change. You either have to dedicate more time per day to writing, or you need to move the deadline that you've given yourself. Okay, those are really the only two options. When it comes to our lives, time is the finite thing that we cannot change. We cannot get more of. So that is not something that we can tweak. What we can tweak is how much time we use and how much time we give ourselves. So when it comes to goal setting, that's what you're going to be looking at. I will say, and we'll talk about habits in a little bit in this workshop, the more you write, the more consistent you are with your writing, the faster you will write. Okay, I like to say practice makes progress. I stole that from a dog trainer. But the more you sit down and actually do the work, the easier that work is going to become. The more you work out your creative muscles, the better you're going to be able to flex them. And so you'll struggle less with a blank page. You'll struggle less with coming up with ideas. You'll struggle less with writing your first draft, and it will just come more easily to you. But that takes practice and that takes consistency. So really, time is what you're thinking about when it comes to, is this attainable? The relevant ties into our dig deeper exercise and then the specific deadline with rooms for milestones. So yes, this is a SMART goal. Okay. And if we go back here, if this is where you are at right now with your goal, turn it into something like this. Okay. And that's why, can you come up with a SMART goal for yourself? And if you're doing, I assume if you're here, you're doing the 60-day novel challenge with us, or you're at least interested in it. So, use something that has 50,000 words by November 30th and give me a SMART goal that uses that. For me, I'm pushing it a little bit past the end of November. I'm actually saying I'm going to finish the first draft of my 60,000 word novel by December 7th, so I can get one step closer to writing the first 6 books in my new series. I just finished the first one yesterday. I'm riding that high. I'm very excited. I'm pumped to write the second one. Honestly, the hardest part is going to be waiting until November to start the drafting process, but I want to do it alongside everyone during this challenge. So that is my SMART goal. And because I'm aiming for 60,000 words rather than 50, I gave myself a longer deadline than November 30th. I'm still aiming for 50,000 words by November 30th, for the extra 10,000 the following week. Okay. Let's see if any come in the chat here, if anyone can come up with a SMART goal. Marie saying that planning is your favorite part. I love planning. I am like there's a lot that I love about discovery writing, about coming up with new things as I'm writing, especially in this most recent series that I've been working on. That I've been having a lot of fun just dropping things in there that I can use later. But I love the plotting part of writing a book. And Robin really appreciates the templates. Good. It's funny because I made it last year and everything that goes into it. And then this year when I went to revisit it to make sure everything was looking fine, everything's good for this year's challenge, like, wow, there's so much great content in here. Now I just sound like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm sorry. It's not the point of this workshop, but like, I was impressed by myself. So I hope that you are all impressed by the stuff that's in there and can make use of it. All right, let's move on here. If any goals come in, we can check those out. Aether's asking, okay, this is a very good question. Is it necessary to set by numbers? I feel like that's terrifying. Would another way be by chapters? That's absolutely fine, and you can do that. I'm not going to. You'll often hear me say, "I'm not going to yuck your yum." So if that works for you, that works for you. Just be aware that chapter is less measurable than word count, and word count doesn't have to be the be all and end all. Okay, you don't have to abide by that word count when all is said and done. But how many words are in a chapter? How long does a chapter take to write? Personally, my chapters span from about 2,200 words to sometimes 4,000 words. And so a 4,000 word chapter takes almost twice as long to write as a 2,200 word chapter. And so that makes it a little more difficult to understand if it's attainable for me. Like if I say I'm going to write a chapter every 2 days, well, it might actually take me 4 days to write a 4,000 word chapter rather than a 2,200 word chapter. Okay. But I don't want the goal setting process to work against you. I don't want you to get scared of a goal. But I do challenge you because this is the challenge, and I'm I'm not afraid to be mean sometimes. I challenge you to challenge yourself. I challenge you to do something that, in your words, could be terrifying and just see how it works out. Make sure that it's realistic. Make sure that it's attainable, right? Maybe do some practice writing, and you can use October to figure out what your writing capacity looks like, and you can augment your goal based on that. But just because something sounds scary or difficult doesn't mean that we shouldn't try it, because a lot of the best stuff comes out of that friction when we approach something difficult. Sorry for picking on you. Okay. Julia's asking, how about if you're revising or expanding a draft? Well, if you're expanding a draft, the same thing. I want to write 50,000 words by November 30th to finish the first draft of my debut fantasy novel, or however you want to phrase it. If you're revising, then it could be less about the word count specifically, then it's more about the time invested in it. Or you can say, I'm going to revise, I'm going to finish the revision for my novel by November 30th. But you know what goes into that revision process. And if you don't, we have a course for that. So that's more on you. Doesn't have to be. Then the measurable part of it is the progress in your revision. And so you might want to make some milestone goals. So by the end of week 1 in November, you'll have edited chapters 1 through 10. Okay. Whatever, you'll have to figure out what your pace can look like and if that's attainable. NJ coming in with a great statement here. When I look at the 50K goal in its entirety, I freeze more often than not. But if I set smaller goals, like writing 2K a day, it feels a lot more reachable. Which is why one of the things we mentioned before is to break down your goal into smaller, more attainable goals. So just because your goal is to write your 50,000 word novel by the end of November, just because that is your goal, doesn't mean you can't have other goals leading up to it. Okay. Writing 1667 words per day in November is a daily goal. Writing, what is that? 12,500 words a week sounds like a big number, but when you break that up, it is more attainable. You need to figure out what works best for you, because again, I cannot reinforce enough that a goal is meant to be a motivating force. It is meant to be something that you want to work towards and can achieve. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a busy end of year. You're telling me. Did I miss? Okay, yes, as a lot of people have said here, this is not a stupid question, and I encourage everyone to dispel the term stupid question from your vocabulary, at least when you're hanging out with me, because I don't want you thinking that I think any of your questions are stupid. I absolutely do not. So you work nights. Would it be advisable to carry a notepad around with me to jot things down? First time writer. First, congratulations on taking this pretty big step. Okay. A lot of people say they want to write a book. Very few people actually start to take action on it. So if you are in the camp of Wolf here, where you've never written a book before and this is your launching point, I want to congratulate you because I haven't yet, because that's awesome. Second, if you're working nights, you can carry a notepad around with you, or if I can shamelessly plug Dabble, you can use Dabble on your phone. You don't even you can download it as an app. You can access it in a web browser so that all of your notes are there in your project whenever you want access to them. But any way to jot down notes, yeah, I absolutely encourage you to do that. And one of the things we'll talk about shortly is when you're at work, if you're at work in a lineup at the dentist's office, what have you, when you have a few minutes, 5-minute and 10-minute intervals of brainstorming or writing or character development add up in the long term. Okay, so yes, I strongly encourage you to carry around something that will help you jot down notes and make progress. Okay. Tessa's asking how long should chapters typically be? That is a question answered by your genre and your audience. So like YA chapters are shorter than adult chapters generally. MG chapters are definitely shorter than either of those. Fantasy chapters tend to be longer than thriller chapters. So I shared a link to Dabble earlier where we have a lot of articles. You can learn more about genre in a lot of those articles there. We have a lot of good stuff over there. I see a lot of great goals coming in here, which is awesome. Let me keep scrolling here. Yeah. And Star is always beating me to answering questions as I'm trying to catch up in the chat. What if I have 2 novel ideas? How do I decide which one to write? Well, you can flip a coin, or which one is calling to you the most right now, and go with that. It's tough. That's a tough question. Beth is saying I can't find how to access the template in the announcements. Let me see if I can find. Yeah. Here, this announcement post that I have has the link to the template. That's a ugly link, but there you go. Okay. I see a couple other questions coming in. I'm going to save them for the end. I gotta keep on keeping on here. Okay. So when it comes to goal setting, one of the things that doesn't fit into the SMART acronym is be good to yourself. This was actually inspired by Kio's post earlier today. My apologies, I swallowed that water wrong. First, I spill water on myself, then I inhale it. I'm on a roll with the liquids today. So remember, goals are meant to be accomplished. And then when you accomplish them, reward yourself for all of that hard work. I'm a big proponent of rewarding yourself, right? A little treatsy if you want here and there, a picnic, a hike, a video game. When I finished my first draft yesterday, my wife and I went out and we bought 2 new board games as my reward for finishing that draft. If you really want to harness the brain science behind goal setting and goal achieving, I guess, you need to reward yourself. You need to tell your brain, we just did this hard work. Now I get something good as a result. Because even when we do the dig deeper exercise, even when we understand why we are writing, the sense of fulfillment is not enough to create this brain chemical powered positive feedback loop that we really want, or it's not as much as we could do. Okay. Fulfillment is very important. It is very, very, very important. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting itself. So you can set daily goals and give yourself daily rewards. When we get to November and you're writing 1,667 words every single day, I want you to do something to reward yourself for that hard work, because that is not easy, especially if you're new to writing. Okay, so make it appropriate to the size of the goal. Okay, don't go out and buy yourself a board game every time you hit 1,600 words a day. You're going to go into a lot of debt. Board games aren't cheap. And to that point, be mindful of your budget as well. Do not go into debt to reward yourself for this kind of thing, because writing can get expensive as is. But it might be, if you're a fan of, I love Dr. Pepper Zero. I adore it. So maybe I save my Dr. Pepper Zero or reward myself with a Dr. Pepper Zero after I hit my writing goal for the day. Maybe I save my latte in the morning until after I've hit my writing goal. You can do the same thing for weekly wins, and you can do the same thing for bigger milestones, like monthly milestones, completing your first draft, ending a revision stage, what have you. The point is, if you are setting a goal, I want you to make it a point to reward yourself for accomplishing that goal. Think about what you want the reward to be, so that you have that motivating factor to get there, and then give yourself the reward. Because when we are trying to create this positive feedback loop, we're relying on two brain chemicals to help us out. We have dopamine, which has gotten a bad rap lately because of short form content and stuff like TikTok and whatnot. But this is your short term instant gratification chemical up there. And you have serotonin, which is more associated with habit building and long term commitments and fulfillment. And when we think about goals in milestones, and when we reward ourselves for smaller goals and longer term goals, we are hitting on both of those. We are getting that exciting kick from both serotonin and dopamine. That's the best way that you can do it. This is how you're really going to solidify, hey, writing is this fulfilling, fun thing I want to do more of all the time. Tessa saying Starbucks trip. Absolutely. Marie saying ice cream cake. I don't know if that's a daily thing. Don't eat 30 ice cream cakes in November. Or if you do, don't blame me. Renee gets plants or seeds for your garden when you hit your monthly goals. I love that. And Stars thinking more books. Hey, I love buying myself books as rewards, but my TBR list is so long that like that act isn't as fulfilling as it once was, because I'm not getting to that book for like a year. So Chanda here saying, I don't know how to reward myself. And some people might read that and think that it's a weird statement, but I absolutely understand that, because it can be tough to reward yourself, and it can be tough to think of things that fit the criteria of rewarding yourself. So maybe we can do some brainstorming in the chat here, and we already are with stuff, but as I go through the next few slides here, everyone think of things for daily rewards, weekly rewards, and a November long reward for all this writing. Stephanie saying uninterrupted gaming time. That's one of my weekly rewards. My go-tos is a few hours of gaming where my wife knows that I'm going to be doing that, and so if something comes up, unless it's very important, then it can wait until after I'm done this gaming time, because I earned this, right? Now, when you have a partner involved, when you have other people involved, you have to work with them. It has to make sense for your situation. But that's one of the things that I do, is uninterrupted gaming time. And Ellie saying, yeah, some self-care. Absolutely. A luxurious shower, a bath, fancier products. Color me. I reward myself with TV. I can't watch TV until you get the big 3 done. I love that. So stuff like that. Keep up the brainstorming in the chat, please. Let's help out here. And maybe we can do some more in the community as well. I'll jot down a note to post something about that. Okay. And then the other thing when it comes to being good to yourself is to be mindful of your limits. I've talked a lot about when I burned myself out on writing. I wrote way too much, way too quickly, and I tackled a level of writing that wasn't appropriate for where I was in my writing career. And as a result, I didn't write for another like 7 months, 6-7 months after that, despite really, really wanting to write. I could not bring myself to do it. I hated the idea of it. And then there was some like self-loathing going on, because like, you should be writing. Why aren't you writing? Because I cannot, because I burn myself out. So I encourage you to challenge yourself in this 60-day novel challenge that we're doing. I encourage you to try hard even when it's difficult. But also, I understand that 50,000 words in 2 months and then another 10,000 words the month after is better than 50,000 words in 1 month and no words for the next 6 months. Okay. Be aware of your own limits. Figure out what works for you. Don't try and sacrifice everything in your life to achieve the 60-day novel challenge. That is ridiculous. And it might sound ridiculous hearing that out loud, but people will do that, and you will burn yourself out, and then you will not write after that. And that is the opposite of what I want with this challenge. Okay. Tessa, I absolutely listen to lo-fi while I write. The only thing I listen to. Tim asking, are you writing 7 days per week, 5 days? That's ultimately up to you, and you can set up your schedule in the goal setting part of Dabble based on what your schedule is like. For me personally, I'm going to be writing 7 days a week in November until the challenge is done. or at least that's the goal. Sometimes things come up and you can't write one day, then your goals adjust and you're writing more than 1,667 words for the rest of the month, or you write more words one day than that goal, and so that adjusts as well. But really, it's whatever. The 1667 comes from writing every single day in November. It'll be different if you cannot do that, which is totally normal. To David's point here, we'll mention this later. No 0 days is a mantra that we came up with last year, where even beyond the 60-day challenge, I encourage you to write every single day, even if you can't reach your goal for that day. So especially during this challenge, if you're just having a really bad day, and you definitely cannot hit that 1,667 mark in November, I want you to write 5 words. Okay, whip out your phone, write 5 words in your novel because you are making progress towards your goal. Even if it's just 5 words, that's way more than 0 words. Okay, numerically it is 5 more than 0, but from a mindset perspective, from an accomplishing our goals perspective, it is a lot more than just 5 words to be able to say, hey, I wrote today, even when I really didn't want to. Okay. So let's get into some writing techniques. These are a lot of things that we're going to be using over the next 2 months to get our writing done, but these are also things that you can take and use for the rest of your writing career. Okay, first, quick look at how some famous authors write. Haruki Murakami, I included this because it's absolutely absurd and I don't want anyone else to feel like they need to do this one. When I'm in writing mode for a novel, I get up at 4 a.m. and work for 5 to 6 hours. In the afternoon, I run for 10 kilometers or swim for 1,500 meters or do both. Then I read a bit and listen to some music. I go to bed at 9 p.m. That's a bit on the extreme side. If you can do this, if you have, the capacity to do this and the privilege to be able to do this every day, then go ahead, do that. More power to you. I cannot do that. I wish I could do that. I cannot do that. This dude's superhuman. Some people would argue so. A little more realistic and a little more well-known, Stephen King. The way that I work, I try to get out there and get 6 pages a day. So with a book like End of Watch, when I'm working, I work every day, 3 or 4 hours. I try to get those 6 pages and I try to get them fairly clean. This is important because this is consistency. This is showing up every single day. You're aiming for that goal of 6 pages. That's measurable. And that is what Stephen King aims for, to get a book, multiple books written. And then I've done workshop versions of this workshop before, and when I did it before, Alice Munro, a fellow Canadian, had not passed away, but is now the late great Alice Munro. So I'm sad that we lost such a great writer. But Alice Munro would write every morning, 7 days a week. I start writing about 8 o'clock and finish around 11. I'm so compulsive that I have a quota of pages. And this is just another example. You wake up every day, you do the work, you build that habit, and it becomes, I don't want to say compulsion, because I know that can have some medical meanings for people. But when you start to develop a habit, it becomes a powerful thing. Okay. And it's something that a lot of times, especially during this challenge, you're going to feel like, oh, I have to write today. Okay, I have to get these words in. I have to make progress towards my goal. When you start writing regularly, when consistency becomes your thing with writing, it's less I have to do this, and it's more this is just a thing that happens. It's just like brushing your teeth, right? I don't think about brushing my teeth twice a day. I just do it. It just happens. Just like writing just happens for me now. Okay, so the first technique, and this is one that I invite you to join me in later today, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. That is in just over an hour. You can see more of me and my pal Robert, who also works here at Dabble and who will be helping out during the challenge. We're going to be doing our regular Wednesday sprints. Sprints are timed writing sessions aimed at maximizing the output of your words without worrying too much about self-editing or the quality or the perfection of your prose. Often combined with the Pomodoro method, it's productivity and then a break, productivity and then a break, productivity and then a break. We do 3 sprints when we do our sprint sessions. It's ideal for people who try and get in there or who tend to get in their heads too much. Okay, this is because this is all about just getting words out for those 20 minutes, and then you take a breather and you do it again. If you do writing sprints with us, minimize your distractions. Figure out your ideal duration. We do 20 minutes, but some people do 15, some people do 25, some people do 40. Figure out what works best for you. And we also have 2 ways for you to do sprints. Start saying. Hold on, please. I just need to send this to the chat, to the work chat. That's funny. We have 2. Caught me off guard there, Star. We have 2 ways that you can sprint with Dabble. In Dabble, this is a snapshot from my 60-day novel challenge from last year. In Dabble, we have a built-in timer that you can use, and it has all these different options, so you can just sprint on your own in Dabble. And then we also have wordsprints.org, which is where we host our communal writing sprints. This is where you can join, either host your own individual word sprint session or join a group one. Anything that you write is yours and yours alone, but contributes to a total group word count. This is something that we do every Tuesday to Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern for 3 writing sprints. And in November, we're going to be doing it from Monday to Friday every day. And yeah, to Kelsey's point about like the measurable part of goals, you can set writing, revising, or editing goals by scenes, pages, or chapters. You absolutely can. Again, goals are supposed to work for you. And Ellie pointing this out here, what worries me slightly, I don't want writing to become a chore. And it absolutely can feel like that, which is why first I strongly encourage you to do that dig deeper exercise. Figure out why you're writing, because it is so much harder to say that is a chore than writing 1,600 words a day. Okay. The other thing is focus on all the letters of a SMART goal, but specifically the attainable one. For the 60-day novel challenge, when we're writing in November, that's going to be tough, right? It's not meant to be easy. When we're outside of the challenge, then you can kind of ease back a bit, like pump the brakes a little bit, figure out, hey, maybe 500 words a day is more attainable and less like a chore. And the more you do it, the more you show up, even when it's difficult, the easier it's going to become. Okay. Part of that attainable aspect is figuring out what I think Chris Fox calls your words per hour rate. And this is a twofold thing that I like to measure. So to find your words per hour rate, you're going to track how many words you've written and how much time that took in hours to write them. And that gives you your words per hour rate. So number of words divided by the minutes divided by 60, the number of hours essentially. So if I wrote 2,000 words in an hour of actual writing time, not 30 minutes of writing, 10-minute break, 20 minutes of writing, but an actual hour of collective writing time, my words per hour rate is 2,000. I wrote 1750 in 45 minutes or 3/4 of an hour. Then my words per hour rate is actually 2333. And the same thing for those other days. The reason that it can be helpful to track your words per hour rate is, one, it makes it easier to understand if a goal is actually attainable. If you can write in an hour's worth of writing time 1,000 words, then you need more than an hour of writing time to write 1,600 words every day in November. Okay. And if you cannot get that time, then you need to adjust your goal. Otherwise, your goal is working against you. The other reason that it's fun to track a words per hour rate is because it can show growth. If you do this over the span of months, get yourself like a weekly average, however you want to do it, you will see growth if you put in consistent work. You will see it going up, even if just slightly. It will increase over time if you are consistent about it. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that Ellie was still up there. Okay, technique number 2. This is why we spent so much time on goal setting in the first part of this workshop, is set some goals. Even if you don't take every letter of the SMART acronym, set goals. That makes it so much easier to actually sit down and write. Writing without goals, SMART or not, has the potential to be very aimless, has the potential to be something that just doesn't happen, that ends up being like 500 words once every 2 weeks. And if you want to write a 100,000 word novel and you're writing 1,000 words a month, it's going to take you 100 months to get there, right? So goals help us mitigate that. And the smarter they are, the better. But again, if there are elements of the SMART acronym that you absolutely despise, give them a chance. Challenge yourself, but we're trying to find something that works for you. Marie asking how you can track your words per hour rate. A spreadsheet, Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, however you want to track it, or just in a notepad. You can make yourself a grid, and you can do something that looks just like this: the date, the words you wrote, how much time you actually wrote for, and then do the math of your words per hour. Okay, let's see here. Ellie, I missed the first part of this workshop, so sorry if this came up. How can you set goals during the planning stage of your novel? It's a big question, actually. I'm going to tackle this more in the Q&A session at the end of this. But for the most part, the short and sweet answer is understand the genre that you're working in, and that will help guide how long your novel will be approximately. And then that can help you figure out how much you need to write every day, how many days you need to write for, all of that kind of stuff. That can start giving you more concrete numbers or times or lengths to work with. But we can talk more about this afterwards. Just because, again, sprint start in an hour, and I said this was going to go till 11:30 in the event in the community. It's going to go longer than that. Sorry, folks. But you can catch the recording in this same link afterwards, so make sure you're subscribed. You can come back to the channel and watch it. Thanks for joining us, Beth. Okay. Writing habits is the third technique, and I think this is one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because writing a book is such a huge endeavor. It will take months, it will take years for some people. So a regular writing schedule can help you snowball your way to success and can help you increase how quickly you can write, and how much you work out your creativity helps you just write better and faster. Okay? So to find the best writing habit, or create the best writing habit, first you want to find your best time to write. Some people are night owls, some people are early birds. I'm running out of avian titles to give people, but like, find when works best for you, and that's when you're going to want to do most of your writing. Okay, and of course, when don't you have other obligations? So for this, I encourage people to use a calendar and put stuff in from their real life into that calendar. If you're picking up the kids from school, how much time does that take up? If you're making dinner, how much time does that take up? If you have a job or jobs, when does that happen in the calendar? And you can start picking out time in the calendar for when you're going to slot in your writing time. And then one of the biggest tricks for establishing a writing habit is to actually book that writing time into your calendar. And as I've said before in some videos, treat it like an appointment, but an appointment that costs money to cancel. Okay, if you want to be very serious about your writing, then you need to treat it seriously. I don't think you need to treat it like a job, but you need to, give it some respect and come at it with this idea that this is important to you, and so you want to do it. So treat it like an appointment that costs money to cancel, but put it into your calendar, and that makes it easier for you to write and easier for you to manage your time. Time management is one of my biggest weaknesses. So this is why I'm so such a fan of the calendar. You can use Dabble to track your improvement, because it does have a last 30 days view of your word count, and it's so satisfying to see it all filled up, or most of it filled up, with those bars that tell you how much you actually wrote. Combine this writing habits with sprints and your goals, and you're going to start seeing a multitude of success coming your way, because there is nothing more effective for reaching a big goal like 100,000 word novel or a 50,000 word novel than consistent, regular effort. And as we mentioned before, no 0 days. No 0 days is just this thing that we say around here, where every day write at least one word. Even if your goal is 1667, if your goal is 500, if your goal is 2000, and you don't feel like writing that day, pull your phone out, open up your laptop, sit down on your computer, whip out a notepad. I don't care what it is, Dabble or not, and write at least one word. That way you can say, hey, I've made progress towards my very important goal today. And oftentimes you'll find that if you jot down 20 words, okay, maybe the next 180 words actually come to you when you thought that they never would. And you surprise yourself with some extra writing that day when you thought writing just wasn't going to happen. Excellent. Thank you for filling in there for the smart. Okay. Susan, I'm glad to see you here. And then the last technique that I have for you is manufactured inspired moments. This is my cute, not little term, my cute term for it. A lot of writers have this idea that they can only write when inspiration hits them, that they can only write when the muse is around and the creative juices are flowing, and the timing is right. Yesterday in the Dabble Academy newsletter, I talked about Colin Firth's character in Love Actually, and how he went to Marseille to find his muse again, to get over his writer's block and write his book. I enjoy that movie. I really like his storyline specifically. But I hate that there are these representations of authors out there in popular media, because that is not how it works. That is not. If you wait for your muse to show up, if you wait for the perfect creative moment or for inspiration to strike, it is going to take you so long to write your novel. Okay. And that's just not how our brains function, but that's how we've been taught to think that they do. And that's why, if we go back, writing habits are such a powerful thing, because you are training yourself to get away from this idea that inspiration has to strike for you to be creative. You are a writer by nature. You are creative. You are probably more creative than most of the people that you know. You don't need some mystical, intangible, not real force to come and give you access to your creativity. It may feel like that's the case, but it is not. And the more you force yourself to draw on that creativity, the easier it's going to become. I referenced it before in this workshop, but I love thinking of creativity as a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it's going to get, the more access you're going to have to it. So writing habits are great to dispel this notion of a muse or of the perfect creative moment. But that's why I call these manufactured inspired moments too. And these things are those tiny parts of your day where you can force yourself to write a few words, and they will come in 1 to 10 minute increments, maybe 15 if you're lucky, maybe 20 if you're really lucky. But these are times in your day when you otherwise think you can't write, when you actually could spend that time jotting a few words down and exercising your creativity. The one that comes to me the most is, I had to take a taxi or an Uber to a dentist appointment one day. And because I don't want to be late for things, I got there 10 minutes early. And so, do you know what I did for 10 minutes? I did not sit in the dentist's office staring at the news cycle going on the TV there. I pulled out my phone and I wrote, and I only got like 100 words written over those next 10 minutes, because writing on your phone isn't always easy. But that's 100 more words than I would have got otherwise, right? And a lot more fulfilling than watching the doom cycle on news. So 100 words does not make a novel, but if you find 5 or 10 minutes every day or every other day, those 100 words start to add up. And the more you do this, the more reflexive it becomes. One of the authors we've had on the show quite a bit, Michael Laron is his name. He publishes like 12, 15 books a year or something. And a lot of the first books that he wrote, he would narrate them, like, and get them transcribed as he was doing dishes, as he was on the subway, as he was walking from one lecture hall to another at school. There are so many moments in your day where you'd be surprised how little you're doing and how you can do something a lot more fun, like writing. So practice writing on your phone. And when you're looking at your calendar to schedule your habits, to figure out when your writing time is, try and picture when you actually have time to draw on that creativity and create one of these inspired moments. One of my go-tos is people who go and pick up their kids from school when you're sitting in line, or when you're just waiting there for your kid to come out of school. there's a few minutes where you can practice your creativity. Okay. This last bullet point here, this is not a technique that can exist unto itself. Okay. If we go back to these other ones, sprints can be your only writing technique that you use to get your book written. Okay. Goal setting and then finding time to just write that works with your goals can be the only technique that you use. Writing habits, habitually writing, like creating this routine that you stick to, can be the only technique that you use. You can use them all in combination. You can use them in isolation. This should not be your only technique, because though those 100 words can add up over time, they will not get that novel written in any kind of actual timeline. Okay. And I don't know if he's pointed it out in the chat here, but I know David's been hanging around. And David joined us for the 60-day novel challenge last year and wrote the entire thing on his phone. And he said earlier that he, as a reward, got a laptop for completing the challenge. But like, it's doable to write on your phone. It does take practice, though. It takes practice. Okay. Oh yeah. And Susan saying, I wrote on my phone when my laptop wasn't set up 3 years ago. Sorry, hiccup. Julia's point here, I love my phone, but it's too distracting. Yeah, so you might want to get one of those apps that blocks out other things or mute your other apps that are distracting. Okay. So a quick poll. We have those 4 different techniques that we just went over: the writing sprints, the goals, the creating a writing habit, and the manufactured inspired moments. Are there any that interest you? Are there any that you're going to try out? Are you going to try out more than one? Like I said, we're doing sprints Tuesday to Thursday all throughout this month and Monday to Friday in November. So absolutely try those out. But let me know if any piqued your interest while I take some sips of liquid here. Tessa saying that writing sprints help out a lot. Awesome. Rob's going to try all of them. Dig it. Marie's going to be joining the writing sprints. Fantastic. Love to see it. Ellie is going to be trying writing sprints. Fantastic. Renee is going to try the manufactured moments. Thinking of your daughter's karate days. Absolutely. I mean, don't let it distract you from being present with people. But yes, as the son who played hockey, I remember how much time my parents spent in arenas, despite me not being very good at the sport. Bernadette is going to try sprints when you get to that point. Definitely the goals and setting up better writing habits. I love that. Patricia is going for the writing habits. Consistency has always been your challenge in writing. Consistency is the key that unlocks everything for my writing. Like, it might not work for literally everyone, but for me, it has been the most powerful thing that has let me write so much. Star is going to schedule time. Awesome. NJ, alter the 60-day challenge for your students. I love that. Awesome. Awesome. Everything L. Holly Floyd can. Stephanie, you wonder if this counts? It does. But I'm going to be accountable to others. Now I just need to find others to be accountable. Well, there is Dabble U Campus for that the community of awesome writers, and where we're hosting the community for this challenge. So I definitely say go and join over there. I will share a link to that again, just so you have it nice and easy. Yes, and as Star is saying here, if you can habit stack, that can help a lot. So your favorite cup of coffee, tea, other beverage to start your writing focus period. And some people use scents to the same end. Like when I only listen to lo-fi when I write. I don't really listen to lo-fi outside of that, because that's part of my ritual, for lack of a better word. Some people use candles. Some people use the same drink. Some people use the same setting. All of these different sensory elements can help your mind get into that creative zone, can get those juices flowing. And NJ is finally on Dabble. NJ is one of our most regulars, for anyone who hasn't been around before. You just signed up for the challenge. Subscribing will be your reward for reaching the goal. I love that. And welcome to the official Dabble family. And L. Holly Floyd's thinking about using that for the same goal, or using the same goal for that. Awesome. Okay. Let's quickly go over some common obstacles. I'm pretty sure, if I remember my own workshop, this is, yep, the second last one, but these ones go a lot more quickly than the past sections. So, writer's block. It's a term that we give to situations or mindsets that when we don't want to write or feel like we can't. I like to say, I don't know if like's the right word. I say that writer's block isn't a thing that people think it is. A lot of people, especially newer writers, will say that they have writer's block and treat it like it's some disease they contracted or it's some external force that is stopping them from writing. In reality, writer's block, or the notion that we cannot write, comes from a result of motivation, confidence, or something affecting those two things. Okay, so the result is real, but I don't want people thinking writer's block is this thing we're afflicted with. It is often caused by other things. Okay. So let me know in the chat, and I have a little have you for each of these. If you've experienced writer's block, what you did to get over it, if anything's been effective or ineffective. But if you do experience writer's block, there are a few things that you can try out, right? Try changing your writing environment, try free writing, which is just word vomiting. Use prompts or come up with a new twist to throw in there, find inspiration in other mediums, or really focus on that writing habit technique we talked about. Developing a writing habit is one of the best ways to counter writing block because, again, the writing just happens. You don't have to worry about gearing yourself up for it. The biggest thing you can do if you experience writer's block, though, is try and figure out what the actual root cause is. Okay. If you're particularly stressed from your job, from your family, from other things going on, that's probably the source of it. If you're feeling low, if you're feeling unmotivated or unconfident, then there's something else making that happen most of the time. The affliction is actually a symptom of something else. It is not an affliction itself. Okay. And yeah, stress exacerbates Julia's blocks. See, so that's the kind of stuff that actually happens. And so the reason I say writer's block doesn't exist isn't to be, contrarian, but it's to make you think about what is actually going on. Because you can address what's actually going on, or you can take steps to address it. You can't address writer's block because there is no cure to writer's block, because writer's block is not a disease. I like this. I get over writer's block by saying over and over that bad words are still words. Listen, my first draft they're full of bad words. You make them better in the revision. Ellie, I appreciate that. And you should be proud of yourself. That's awesome. Okay. The messy middle. And from our poll earlier today, this is something that a lot of people find themselves struggling with. The middle of your draft is not only where you lose a lot of momentum, but it's where the story itself has a tendency to sag. So let me know if, and again, a bunch of you have, but if you've struggled with the messy middle. If you do struggle with it, though, I want you to take some time to revisit your outline and pinpoint where things slow down. Even if you aren't a huge plotter, we're spending the first month of the challenge planning and brainstorming and plotting to the extent that you want to. And we're doing that because when we hit November, we don't have a lot of time to not be writing because we have all the other things going on. So we have to write when we can, where we can. And so getting hung up in the messy middle really slows that down when we're already crunched for time. So we're doing that work in advance so you can reference the outline so you can more quickly address what the issue is. So try plotting. If you're a hardcore pantser, try and do a little bit of plotting with me. Okay. You can try adding more to make your middle more exciting. Add something unexpected. Even though we plotted, you don't have to stick to an outline so rigidly. Add in fun new things. And then again, focus on that writing habit, and preferably outside the challenge, you can scale back your goals if you're finding that you're just not hitting the word count that you want to hit every day. Perfectionism. This is a brutal one for a lot of us. I know the chat's just going to fill up with, I struggle with this one because I struggle with this one too. Right? It's the mindset we adopt where we feel like everything must be the best it can be before we can move past it. So if you struggle with perfectionism, I want you to embrace, let me find it. I just shared it. I want to put it up on screen again. No, I lost it. And I'm going to be like, aha, that's it. But first drafts are full of bad words, right? They are imperfect, and especially if you're writing a lot of words in a short amount of time, they are not going to be your best words, right? You have to accept that. You have to accept that first drafts are not drafts that are published. First drafts are a lot of work and a big first step, but they are the first step. And then you're going to revise them and make them perfect, or as perfect as you can, for publication. So one of the things that I do want you to practice both in October and throughout November is being comfortable with writing words that are imperfect. This takes a lot of practice. Okay, but this is why we really lean into writing sprints, because if you're trying to write as much as you can in a sprint, you don't have the luxury of going back and perfecting what you just wrote. It is just forward progress. You're putting the blinders on and you're going, and you can fix it later. That is a later problem. Okay. To Shelly's point here, joining the word sprints really helped me sidestep my perfectionism. I love it. Wolf, thanks for joining us, and thanks for the great engagement. And yeah, Bad Wolf Book saying here, first drafts are supposed to be the worst. Write your worst. Exactly. Write your worst and you'll make it better after. But the famous line, you can't edit a blank page, right? You can't improve something that's not there. So you got to get something there first. Takes practice though. Not easy. And then I believe our last obstacle is life. And I've mentioned this a couple times, but we have jobs, we have family, we have other responsibilities, we have bills, we have extracurriculars, we have doing things for fun. Forbid that we can do that. Balancing all of that is already difficult. And now you are adding writing on top of that. Okay? And especially in a challenge where we're asking for a decent amount of your time regularly, if you want to achieve this goal you're setting for yourself, you need to be able to balance life. Okay. So let me know how people have been balancing their own lives while writing, if you have been. But for this, I want you to revisit your writing routines. I want you to be flexible in your scheduling. And I want you to ask yourself if time management is actually the problem. Like I say, I'm bad at time management. It's not always my poor time management that stops me from writing. Sometimes I use life as an excuse to not write. Something I don't have in here, although I guess it falls under flexible scheduling, is that life is, well, one of our famous sayings around here is that writing revolves around your life. Life doesn't revolve around your writing. Even when we're doing an intense challenge like the 60-day novel challenge, your writing still revolves around your life. So if you have a partner, if you have people living with you, if you have dependents, you need to work with them and make sure that everyone's on the same page and that you have the space and time available to write, and that it doesn't negatively impact other people. For writing, for example, my wife is part of my support system, because if I say, I need to get some writing done today and I haven't been able to this morning, then she'll be like, okay, I'll take the dog for the evening walk. Right. So you can get some writing done. Or, hey, can you move the car so I can get to the coffee shop so I can do some writing? Little things like that are all support. You just need to make sure that the people around you, the people in your life, are aware of what you're doing so that they can support you and make this more possible. And yeah, and be kind to yourself if you have health issues. That's the other thing that's not included in here, but we talked about earlier, when we talked about being kind to yourself, is you need to be aware of what your limitations are, of what you need to do that is best for yourself. Because writing revolves around life, not the other way around. You need to sell the house so you can move and get out of the selling limbo. Yeah. And here's the thing. When you tell other people about your writing, I kept my writing a secret until my first book was ready to be published, which I absolutely regret. But other people around you want to support you when it comes to something as important as writing a book, when it comes to something as important as being creative and like making art. They want to be there to help you. So don't be afraid to tell them about it. Or, I mean, you can be afraid if you want, but you should tell them about it. You should have that conversation, even if it can feel hard, because they will want to support you. Some people will not. And it's unfortunate. That's the way that it is sometimes. But you'll be surprised with how many people actively want to support you in your goal. Stephanie's all about the red hair. Don't keep your writing a secret, though, right? Don't go. If you've been keeping your writing a secret, bonus homework for you, go and tell someone about it. Just gush about it. Get them as obsessed about it as you are. Okay. And we're going to quickly breeze through this because over at Dabble campus, we do have a free course that is largely based off of this workshop that walks you through creating a writing plan. And I'm dropping the link to that course in the chat there. So you can go and you can take that over the course of this month as well. But there's some things we can do to craft a writing plan if you want to make one. This is something I'm going to go through quickly just because we are well over time now and we still have some questions to answer. But if you want to make yourself a writing plan for any book, these are kind of the steps you want to go through. So step 1 is reflect. Where are you at right now? This is particularly important for a challenge. Are you starting a new draft or are you working with an existing one? What's worked well for you up to this point, and what obstacles have you encountered? How did you overcome them? And then what did you learn about that? What have you learned from this workshop that you want to incorporate into your writing plan? Then step 2, let's talk about our vision and goals. Your vision for the book. What's the core idea of the book, and when do you want it to be completely finished? That is not just first draft finished, that is completely finished. Or if you want, you can focus on the first draft, but I like completely finished, and then I work my way back and figure out when the first draft needs to be done for that. For some people who have not written a book before, this might not be something you can come up with any level of accuracy right now because you don't know how long it takes you to write a book. That's perfectly okay. You don't need to fill out everything. Just like, what is your total word count goal? I've written enough to know what word count goal I'm aiming for. If you're participating in the challenge, 50,000 words is what you're aiming for. You might not know what you're aiming for, and that just takes time and practice to figure out. But if you understand what you're trying to write, when you want to write it for, and how long it's going to approximately be, you can start breaking down those key milestones to figure out when you want to accomplish things to stay on track. And with that, you can set your goals and make them as smart as possible. Then what techniques are you going to use? We talked about these 4 techniques. There are other writing techniques out there. The one technique you are not allowed to use is waiting for the muse to help you write, 4,000 words in one day and then never write again for 2 months. So pick one of the ones that really vibes with you, or multiple. And then schedule it. Use your calendar and look for your ideal writing time to write every day if possible. It's not possible for some people, but still aim for that no 0 days of whipping out your phone and writing a word or two. So find your ideal writing time and then look for those 5 to 15-minute bonus sessions where you can have the manufactured inspired moments if you want them. Then I want you to figure out your support system. Okay? I want you to figure out people around you who are there to support you, who are willing to support you in this, what role they're going to play, whether they're like a cheerleader, whether they're someone you're bouncing ideas off of, whether they're a beta reader or an editor, what have you, what their contact info is, and when you'll reach out. Again, I'm breezing through this. If you want a lot more detail in this and to go through it step by step, building your own plan, check out the link to that course that I posted. Then we're going to specifically dial in on obstacles, because the best way to overcome an obstacle is to prepare for it in advance. So if you've experienced obstacles like writer's block before, or life really gets in the way before, what happened? When did they normally pop up? What can we do ahead of time to try and mitigate that? And what contingencies do we have in place if they do rear their ugly head? And then lastly, with any writing plan that you make, I want you to plan to revise the plan. Okay. In this setup, I have a 30 day, 90 day, 6 month, and 1 year plan to revise it. You can do however many revisions of your plan you want, but when you create something like a writing plan, when you actually sit down and figure out When am I going to write? How am I going to write? Who's there to help me? What obstacles am I going to encounter, and how do I overcome them? That's not static. That is a dynamic thing. That's a fluid thing. And over time, that is going to change. You're going to find things work for you really well, and some things absolutely do not work for you. You're going to find that some obstacles actually don't pop up, even though you've encountered them before. And you're going to find that other obstacles are popping up more and more often. So whenever you plan a certain way to write, or whenever you create this kind of plan of attack to start writing your book or to keep writing your book, just remember that it's not set in stone. You want to set aside 15 minutes every few months to just say, hey, is this working for me? Or is there anything else I can do to set myself up for success? This is a great element of your support system. Absolutely. Okay. And then now we have some time for some Q&A. So I'm way over time, as I normally am. And if you couldn't hang around, I apologize. And if you are watching this after the fact and you're like, I signed up for not a 2-hour video, well, then I'm sorry, but I'm glad you made it this long. I have a couple questions banked in the back end here from people chatting, but if you have any questions about the challenge, about how to mentally prepare yourself for success for writing a book, about anything that we covered today, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I will also say a big old thank you. We'll still answer questions, but you can join the 60-day novel challenge over at dabbleu.com. That's Dabble Campus, our community for writers, dabblers, and non-dabblers alike. And if you do join the challenge and you aren't a dabbler, you can try to dabble out for the entire challenge and fall in love with it. If you have any questions or comments about this workshop, you can always email me at doug@dabblewriter.com. But otherwise, we just got some time for some Q&A. Let's do that. Okay. Let's see here. Marie's asking, will there be daily tips on Dabble? Here on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you remember, smash that subscribe and notification buttons. But we'll be posting daily shorts here with tips to help you out throughout the challenge. They are geared to focus on the structure of the challenge to hit the parts that we're hitting throughout the challenge, but they're just evergreen writing tips as well. So make sure you subscribe. We'll be doing our lessons on here. We'll be doing live streams every week on here as well. Any other shows we'll be doing on here, but we'll be sharing it in the community as well. Okay. I'm glad you could listen, Fenris. Excellent. Keo woke up 5 minutes ago, so you're glad I went over time. David knew it would be 2 hours. No. Listen, Hank and Abby hung around for 10 minutes at the start, so it's not my fault. Bernadette's so glad you found Dabble. I'm so glad you did too. Valentine, thanks for joining. And remember, everyone, I am hosting sprints with Robert in 33 minutes. So if this wasn't enough, Doug, and you want to get some work done, join me again in half an hour. NJ's asking if there's an age requirement for joining Dabble. For joining Dabble itself, no. For the community, I think it's 16 or older, but that's in the terms of service. So double check on that. But for actually using the platform, nope. All right. And Andrea, how do we start now? Do we go straight to the template? You're going to go and join the challenge over at Dabble Campus, which is the link there. And then from there, you're going to head on over to the announcements. I'll post a new announcement today, just kicking things off, but it's been a whirlwind being on here with everyone. So I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'll post a new one with more explicit instructions to get the template. But you'll also find that in this announcement here that I'll share, which also covers the outline of the challenge itself. Can never get enough, Doug. Thank you. Okay, so Logio's having a hard time finding the template. I will make it a lot easier after sprints, after I get a chance to post a new post. Shelly's asking, when do we get our homework? The homework is in the template, broken up by week, and it will be assigned in the lessons as well. All of the lessons are designed to go along week by week with the template, and the template is broken up in weeks 1 through 8. Officially starting next week, the way that the calendar lines up, but I'll be tackling the homework in today's sprints. All right. Yeah, Marie asking if the sprints in October will just be random ideas because you haven't planned your book out. The whole point of October is to walk you through the process of planning your book out and pulling out those ideas for you to organize for your book. So if you click on the template here, actually, let me show you since we're here. Forgive me for a moment here while I share my screen. Okay, so when you log into Dabble, there's this little text here, show templates. I have a bunch of templates because it's my job, but you're looking for the 60-day novel template or novel challenge template in here. And I'm not going to open a new one, but when you do get in here, it's going to look like this. And down in story notes is where you're going to find the actual challenge. And then week 1, and then we go through with all the exercises. And every week has a whole bunch of resources for you to better understand what's going on. So you can go ahead. I mean, you can go and work on week 4 if you want. You can do whatever you want, but we will be going week by week, tackling the topics in each one. Okay. Shelly's asking, how can we confirm we've properly connected the project to the 60-day challenge? So let me pop this back up here. So you should get a pop-up prompting you to join it, or you can dismiss it if you don't want to join it. But you can also click here, the 60-day novel challenge. And then if these two have check marks next to them, then you're in, you've joined. If not, then your button here will guide you through the process, either to join the space over in the community or to actually enroll with your Dabble account. And then it will ask you to choose a project to tie to it for the 50,000 word count. And mine's going to be that one. I've already set this up, so I'm not going to go through it again. But it will then guide you through the goal setting process. And if this is grayed out here, then just, like I said, I'm aiming for 60,000 words, just type it in again. Sometimes it does that. And Shelly, yeah, you can change the project after connecting. Just go through the same way. The same thing that I just showed there will let you change it. Hi, Erica. You're here for the very end. And Sarah saying this should be resolved today, but sometimes if you get the template, it won't actually open or it won't show. If that's the case, if you clicked on the template link and it's not showing up in your template library, log out of Dabble, log back in. That's an internet connectivity issue. It should be resolved now. I think we found the fix, but sometimes that happens. Okay, so oh, sorry, I guess I can stop sharing that as I'm clicking in not Dabble thing. How can one adjust the goals if I want my novel to have illustrations? Again, the 50,000 words is just what we're aiming for because that's what Nano established and that's what everyone's really used to. And that's something that is doable but challenging in the month of November. So adjust your goals however you want. And if you have illustrations in your book, look to other books in your genre that have illustrations as well and see how they've changed things up. Okay. Emily asked earlier, I'm not at a point where my plot and world is 100%. Should I still be writing to a word count? The thing with plotting and world building is that it will probably never be to 100%. And in fact, you don't want it to be to 100% because you want to discover things as you're writing. Things will just organically pop up. So yeah, I still think it's worth setting a goal, especially if you're doing the challenge with us, or if you just want to set a SMART goal, still worth doing a word count. The thing that I need to reinforce, goals can be changed. Just because you set a goal, if you set a goal with me today, doesn't mean it's set in stone forever. If you find that it's going to be more words, then you can change the word count you're aiming for. If you find that you're going slower or faster than you thought you would, you can change the deadline. Goals are not set in stone. They are not immutable. Again, they are there to work with you, to motivate you, to help you achieve them. So don't get hung up too much on thinking that you can't fix it later. Okay. I think I just need a few minutes before the sprints start. So thank you everyone for joining me today. If there are more questions, feel free to ask them in the community, the challenge community over in Dabble Campus. We have a discussion section that has a whole bunch of posts that I am behind on, but that is the ideal place to just chat about the challenge, to get excited about what you're working on. It's just gonna be an awesome time. I am really looking forward to this. I really appreciate you being here live with me or catching up on this after the fact. It's going to be an exciting, fun, incredible, insert other positive adjectives here, 2 months. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to get started on the first week of content, or you just want to write whatever you're writing, join me in 25 minutes here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that like button for this workshop, and I will see you later. Bye, everyone.